Yeah, so that was a race that happened. For a boring track with no real passing opportunities and the race for the lead not really being that exciting in either main event. A lot happened there. So I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about it. It was I don't know how I feel about it because being at the race for the last couple of weekends has been so much like excitement that as the 450 main was like winding down, I was kind of like I felt myself crashing a little bit. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like, probably don't. You probably don't because you didn't get to do what I got to do, I guess. But Chase Sexton, Chase Sexton, Chase Sexton, Chase Sexton, Chase Sexton, man. It's just painful. It's literally painful to watch, and it reminds me of the clip from Major League. You guys know the Major League movie. It's actually the sequel, Major League 2, where they're like, we're going to the thing. We did it. And the guy's like, yeah, so what? We'll blow it in the ninth. We'll blow it in the World Series. It literally feels like that, where I hate being so pessimistic about it, but it's just so disappointing every single week like clockwork. It's just you're just waiting for it. And you know what, it reminds me of Stu. And with all due respect to Chase, I don't want to put him in a category with like one of the goats, but did you guys feel that way? Like I felt with Stu, where he has this speed, but like you would just waiting every race, every season. You're just waiting for Stu to have the big one and weed himself out for the year and never be the same again. And I just hope that Sexton's gonna figure it out. And I know that maybe this is why he wants to go to KTM or wherever he ends up. Maybe it is a bike issue, maybe it's a setup issue, whatever it is. But regardless of what it is, it's just painful to watch. And then Eli just getting the most quiet race win of his career. Like at no point in the day did Eli feel like he was even one of the top three guys. And then what do you know? 50th win of his career ties Stu, tying it back to Stu again. And we go into the break with a dual red plate. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good point. So Racer997 says Sexton doesn't even crash with style like Stu. Does that make it worse somehow that Sexton crashes in the most mundane ways? Like they're just dorky little tip overs that the rest of us do. When Stu would crash, they were spectacular. Like AP last week, that was a Stu crash. Is it better or worse that Sexton's crashes are just little dorks? I don't know. I don't know if I would appreciate it more if they were spectacular stew-like crashes, but they're not. It's just mind blowing. What was the stat? Does anybody know? Was it 27 points that Chase has thrown away crashing? It would just be it would just be so cool to have a three-way battle, to have a Stu Carmichael Reed thing, but it's just not gonna happen. And that's obviously a bummer. Yeah, TJ, Bam is fast lately. Bam, I don't know if you guys caught it or not, but I'm gonna have to go back and look at the lap times at the end. But Barsha was close to Webb there at the end, and we know that Cooper backed off. They even said on the broadcast, like his body language, it definitely seemed like Cooper was kind of relenting the chase on Eli. He was just saying, I'll just take my second and we'll move on to the next round. But he might have relented a little too much because Barsha was right on him at the end. Dan Arrington said Yoder whole shot his heat and led the first lap on the broadcast team. Didn't even mention him. They did for a second. RC did say, I will give RC credit where it's due. There was a moment where RC said, um, Yoder, but it felt like he was looking at his sheet trying to figure out who it was, and so I'm not gonna comment on that. But and then the main too. And then I don't know if you guys caught it or not, but somebody on Twitter tagged Ricky and gave him the whole sheet, gave him the whole rap sheet. Like, here's who Hunter Yoder is. He was a highly touted amateur. He was signed to Geico Honda the year that he was supposed to make his debut. The year after they closed, he was left without a ride. Blah blah blah. He was on TV. He did that show. Is it Blippy? I don't know. I'm too old. I don't have kids. Blippy or whatever. Like, gave him a whole sheet about Yoder after the heat race. And apparently Ricky doesn't check Twitter in between races. Which I don't blame him. I don't blame him for not checking it. But was the checkers okay, Ryan? Thank you. Yeah, and then nothing. And then in the main, Ricky just nothing. So, who had Morans for FFL? That's a great question, TJ. I probably, was probably somebody. Probably somebody. Did something happen with Craig? So he definitely was down early. I don't know if he crashed. I didn't see it. But he definitely was dead last on like the third lap and worked his way up through it. So I imagine that he had some kind of issue. Mark's got me the numbers. Oh man. Mark said I'm just so mad. 19,645 teams entered. Does anybody want to take a guess at how many people picked Kevin Moran's? I'll give you a hint. It's over 0. It is more than 0. 3 people picked Kevin Moran's. 3. 3 people picked Kevin Moran's for the FFL. Like, what are we doing? What are the rest of us even doing? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Biggest laugh. Dozer, and you know what though? I will give him props, man. He made a joke. Somebody said on Instagram, asked him like, "When are you gonna whole shot the main?" And he was like, "We were close, we were close." And man, he got it, dude. Good for him. Good for Kev. I'm so stoked for that guy, man. He really deserves it. Now that I'm here and it's a lot easier for me to talk to you guys directly, how did we feel about the post-race interviews when I was live in the stadium? Then we'll get back to the race tonight. But any feedback on that, let me know. Even if you don't want to do it live, message me on Discord or Twitter or Instagram or whatever, or tag me or whatever it is. Let me know how that went. I know that we had some audio issues, especially the second night. Stream ended up dying because I got too far away from the Wi-Fi, so I had to reboot it, and then I had to do it off of my phone service, which was much worse, so I know the quality wasn't as good as where we want it to be. But like, as far as the format and the live thing, it feels like I've got the green light from Feld and from Supercross to do that. They seem like they actually like it. I got complimented for the ingenuity of the format. So hopefully we'll be able to do it whenever we can. Felt like I was there. Nice. They were good. Okay. Did Chase crash? Andre, friend, you gotta ask. He did. He just did a little too much front brake endo in a corner. It was sad. It was sad. CF said, opinions on McAdoo in the heat race. I just thought it was dumb. I don't know. I feel like McAdoo, with all due respect, I feel like he really was forcing the issue. I don't think anybody, let me just say, I don't think that there was any blame pie on that. That is purely a racing incident, 100%. Chase, or not Chase, I'm sorry. Cameron was... Jet definitely messed up the rhythm a little bit and lost his momentum, and I don't think Cameron was expecting that. So like, total race thing, but it's one of those where if Cameron needs to just let him go. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's the thing that a lot of these guys do, and I think Hayden with Jordan was the same type of way, is when the fast guy gets around, you just kind of have to just let him go for a second, rather than putting yourself in that position to be right next to them in a dangerous scenario, dangerous part of the track, whatever you want to have it. I knew it was coming. And same with Styles. Did you guys see Styles crash coming? Because I did. I saw it from a mile away with both of them. One guy on the left, one guy on the right. I was like, oh, Styles is right in the middle, and that's not going to be good. And it was not good. It was not good for him at all. And I hope he's okay. They were definitely, favoring that shoulder. I hope he's good. They didn't have him in a sling, and he wasn't supporting it, so I don't think he broke his collarbone, but definitely not a good one. James said, happy to be here, just glad not to hear Will Christian. Damn, my ex-wife might be the most annoying. I don't mind her, but I don't think she adds anything that we couldn't get from somebody else. You know what I mean? Yeah, great night for Yoder, dude. Props to Hunter Yoder. Cade told me that he was good in the. I mean, I knew that, but in preseason, Cade said, Yoder is good. He is really, really good, and it's so exciting to see him do it. You know. Woodman said, "Smack my poo." Okay, is sketchy. Needs to calm down in heat races. Could have hurt them both. Cowie already smashed up bad. That's true. That's a good point, Woodman. Yeah, Cowie is already already hurt. I don't think they need any help from their own riders getting guys out there. Aaron Martin said, "Did you see Cameron's muffler?" Yeah, it definitely was. It was gnarly for sure. That was wild. T. Anthony said 196 points tonight with 7 in. I got robined again. Why are you doing getting robined? Come on, man. Come on, man. Bad Dog said, "What do you think of Webb's finger wagging Sexton in the heat?" So I didn't really like that, Bad Dog. When Cooper did the finger gun to Roxon after passing Roxon in the last corner of that Triple Crown round, fair. You caught, you passed him, you know, in a way, it was a slick move that Cooper did. But in this instance, Chase started a few guys back, had to work through a little bit of traffic, and didn't quite catch him, ran out of time. I don't think that's a finger gun, finger wag moment, but whatever. You know, I've never held a red plate in my life, so who am I to tell Cooper Webb how to live his life? You know what I mean? MX Ref said, "Whenever Sexton is leading off screen and the crowd goes crazy, you already know what happened." It's so disappointing. It's so disappointing. It really is. Dozer said, "I thought it was more of a point." Yeah, it reminded me of his finger gun that he did to Kenny, but somehow the finger gun is worse, I think. I don't know, man. T. Anthony said, "Does it scare you watching McAdoo? I always feel like he's gonna hurt someone or himself." Honestly, yeah, a little bit. And it's not just him. It's not just him. A lot of the guys in the 250 class. If I'm being honest, I am more concerned about the older 250 riders than I am the young guys. Like, you know, you look at the Varizes, the Hunter Yoders. Those are the guys that we should be. Oh, man, but it's not, man. It's McAdoo, it's RJ, it's those guys that you're like, oh, I hope nothing bad happens here. I hope nothing bad happens here. And that's the thing. Only 2 180 turns. It's actually an improvement. Yeah, so James, this track was created by somebody on Supercross on the Supercross video game, Supercross 5. Definitely a disappointing track. If you're gonna create a track, probably needs to be a little more pizzazz than that. You know what I mean? Racer said Webb passed Eli a bunch for wins a couple of years ago. He did? Yes. Woodman said Sexton will clean it up on KTM. The Honda seem to give guys problems in the front end, but for the really fast guys. I don't know. It's just weird, Woodman, because it feels like we didn't have these issues with this Honda in the first year they brought it out. It feels like this is something newer. I'm not saying newer, but I don't want to say it's a settings issue or something, but why Kenny really liked the Honda the first year it came out, and Sexton was doing just fine on it. I want to know what happened. You know what I mean? Pulp is updated. Michael, thank you. I ended up with 260, I believe, on the night. Wow, that gave me like 800 spots in the championship, so I'll take it. 260 on the night for me. I'm now up into the top. I'm almost in the top 1,000. We're at 1164, but I'll take it. 362nd on the championship league for the night. I don't think I had enough to win the March admins league. I did gain some ground on JT though. Let's see, Seattle, Detroit, Indy, Daytona. That's the March one. Mark's got me, that little dork. How dare he? Mark's got me by 16. Congratulations, Mark's dog. I appreciate you. You're good. Dozer said, "Did some of the drama seem to spill over from last week? Almost a WWF feel." Dozer, can we just talk about the drama? So we obviously had the Jet versus McAdoo drama and whatever. Jerry Robbins' little attitude after the LCQ, was that not a little extra for anybody else? I just was like, really? I mean, I get it was his teammate, but you can't leave the freaking door open with 2 corners to go in a freaking LCQ. Like, are you kidding me? And yeah, his teammate got him, but then I love that he tried to race along that rhythm section and get his teammate back when you know you're going to get docked because you cannot race along the freaking rhythm section. It's just, again, when we're talking to teenagers, I'll give them a pass that maybe they, like, whatever, you get a little hot-headed and things happen. But when you're a veteran, and I can't believe I'm calling, Jerry Rubin a veteran, but he's been in the class for years, and you're making those or Anderson is guilty of this, of like trying to, race off the side of the track and catch a guy or whatever. What are you doing? It's just so silly, man. Who you calling a dork? You, sweetie. I'm calling you a dork, Marks. Um, Jeremy said, weird part is that Sexton's speed looks smooth and not wily. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that's the most weird, Jeremy, is it's always the silliest little things that he does. Like, they feel like crashes that I'm going to have. You know what I mean? It feels like that for sure. It's just weird. Racer997 said, every time I watch a 250 race, I think of the riders who aren't in it because of injury. Am I alone in that? I can't say you're alone, but that's not something that I do. Jess, hi, hello, it's good to see you. Casual said, four straight head rounds has taken me out of the top 1,000. Rough. Yo, Tone, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. We don't have a sponsor. We don't have anything for the live show. I'm just doing this for fun for you guys. James said, come on, Robin has worked his ass off for years with nothing. He rode a vintage bike one year. It's got to be frustrating. No, I get it, but it'd be different if, I don't know, he's been in the LCQs before. He knows the business. He knows how this goes. You can't leave it open for anybody. This is what it's like not having Stewart, Carmichael, or McGrath on the track. No one is way faster than anyone else. It's actually good racing. I agree, Sleep. I agree in the 450 class, but I will say I for one, and let me know how you guys feel. I for one am so excited to see Jet move up for this summer in the outdoors to the 450 class. I'm so excited to see Hunter move up ASAP because I am so tired of it being a foregone conclusion of who's out in front. Hunter now has a 30-point lead in the championship in the East. Jet has, I think, a 23-point championship in the West. And I know there's no reason to give them the number one early because there are still a lot can happen. They can have DNFs. They could have, crashes. But it just sucks that it's been, even last year with Jet and Craig, it's been a long time since we've had a nice, good 250 championship battle. And thankfully the 450 class is making up for that, for how competitive it is. But I, for one, cannot wait for the Lawrences to move up and make that 250 class competitive again. Darkside Rob said, Eli mentioned in the same breath as McGrath, Stewart, Carmichael, and Reed is wild. It makes no sense. And Rob, you can't argue the numbers, though. And I know a lot of people say, oh, Eli, yeah, but he raced longer and blah, blah, blah. But longevity is something that we give props for. A lot of people gave Chad Reed the props for racing as long as he has. That was something that people looked fondly about Chad Reed. Why shouldn't Eli be afforded the same thing? Just because he has been able to be a 450 guy for almost a decade, much longer than most of his peers, that shouldn't be held against him. Jeremy McGrath raced from 93 to the early 2000s. Then he took some time off and then he came back and raced again. He was just more dominant he was more dominant up front and had a little bit of those, I don't want to say moonlighting years at the end. And Eli did the opposite. He had a couple early on, he had a little bit of struggles and he's just been so, I don't know. I guess I do feel it though, for a guy that's been as dominant as he is, he didn't really dominate the standings. He's been clearly the fastest guy for the majority of his career. I don't know. He's definitely a hybrid of all of the guys. He's never been the peak speed that Stu is. He's never been the just utmost consistency that RC is. He's never been any of them. He's literally just, if you plotted them in a circle, Eli's right in the middle of just having pieces of all of them without being gifted in any one particular thing. Does that make sense? Velocity Raptor said, I think Ando is now officially just logging the laps for the rest of the season. I disagree. He definitely was up there battling this year. Even tonight, he had a couple moments where he was battling, but I think that he's at that point of that stage where once things kind of go south or for the night, he definitely does seem to kind of phone it in a little bit. Like tonight, he was really pushing, and then he hit some turbulence, and then it definitely did that. But I don't know. It's hard to tell with these guys. I still won't be surprised if Jason Anderson wins a race, but he's definitely running out of time. We've only got 6 to go. Chap said, have people forgotten 2015 Eli? I say that's peak Stu speed. Yeah, but we only got to see it for such a brief amount of time because he didn't even get to race the entire year. I wish we could. I think that for me, 2015 Eli kind of goes on the same level of 2017 Roxon for me. For like, there's no doubt in those first 3 rounds of 17 that you could say Roxon was hands down the best guy out there. But because we only got to see it for 2.5 rounds, you need to see it more. We need a bigger thing before we can say that's the guy, because doing it for a week or 2 is not that impressive. You got to do it for at least 10 or 11. You know what I mean? How did Anderson pass Sexton? Dozer, that's a great question, and I wish that the broadcast would have touched on that at any point. Literally at any point. Even post-race, they could have, and they just didn't. Darkside Rob brings up Webb and Roxon both have 21 wins. You know what's also wild, Rob, is that we have 3 of the top 10 most winningest riders of all time active in the series right now. That's really cool. Eli obviously has 50, and then Webb and Roxon both have 21. 92 combined wins from those 3 guys is wild, man. That's the best we've had since the RC Stu Reed era, you know? James Sharp said, I think Sexton may be hurt, but we don't get to hear about that. I mean, he might be hurt from tonight, but I don't think he has anything lingering. But I haven't heard that yet. Safe said Barcia is the absolute wild card. If he's able to put it together, he can definitely mix up this title. I don't think he's gonna mix up the title. I know what you're saying. Like, he can definitely take some points away from people, but I think for mixing up a title, I think it has to be somebody that's gonna be repeatedly challenging that, and it definitely feels like Barcia's gonna have his nights and his tracks that he's gonna be competitive at, but it also feels like he has those nights where he's kind of invisible, and that's the worst, you know what I mean? Two-stroke Rippin said conspiracy time. Eli got paid out from the AMA to have a few bad weeks. Keep the points tight. If that were going to happen, I'm not going to say that that's not happening, but if that were going to happen, I just want to point out that that wouldn't be the AMA. The AMA doesn't benefit from selling tickets. That would be Feld. It's not happening, but if it were anybody, it's going to be Feld. We need to differentiate. We need to put the blame where it belongs here, okay? There's AMA, there's Pro Motocross, MX Sports, and then there's Feld. It would be Feld that would need to do that. Chris Johnson said, I'm calling it now. Anderson wins Glendale Triple Crown. You know what, Chris? Wilder things could happen. I would not be surprised at all if Anderson came out and decided to win the Triple Crown. Why not? Why not, right? It doesn't seem like Eli, Chase, and Cooper want to put together 3 good ones in a row. Tim Fitzpatrick said, why do we have to cut away from a battle to see the winner cross the finish line? Happens in heats and mains. Tim, that's a great question. I guess because the broadcast wants to see the winners. I will say it was similarly. I've talked to some photographers in the industry, and, you know, they've missed things because they need to be in the position to get the finish line shot. Like, people want that money. They pay money to get that shot, to put on thumbnails and headlines and the banner of a website and thing, is that whip across the finish line with the fist pump. And because they're so focused on having that shot, they oftentimes miss those last corner shenanigans that we all wish there was a better angle of. So I feel like that's the same thing that goes here, is that the broadcast needs that shot with the fire in the background so that they can put that all over all of the clips that they put on socials. And that really sucks that we lose out on good racing to get it. So mixed at MX bike stream soon. I'm terrible, so absolutely not. You don't want to see me. I barely, like, I'm just happy if I could put in a whole lap without goofing up real hard. So probably not. Dayton Davis said it was weird to see Coop not adapt as well as Eli did. Coop kept stretching the 3 on table. Tomac switched up that section. Lots of kept making it work. I think the biggest thing, though, Dayton, was the Cooper, as much as Cooper could make up a little bit of time everywhere else on the track, Eli was making up so much time in that whoop section that I don't think it mattered, and I don't think Coop was comfortable enough to try Eli's slingshot skim line, because that thing was money. That thing was wild. Becca said, love the live show last week. The sport needs more raw interviews like that. I appreciate it, Becca. It was definitely cool. I felt really bad because there were definitely, they set up that area. You guys saw the backdrops that had like the Monster Energy logos and everything on it. And you're supposed to use those. But I'm just so much of a, like when I've got the camera and they're right here, let's just go. And at one point, Joe, who works for Feld, was like, hey, let's not do it in front of a trash can. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. We probably shouldn't do this in front of a trash can. So I think that was Justin Hill. It was one of the last ones of the night. So we went into the room and did it in front of the backdrop. Johnny B said, did we see how Chase lost 2.5 early in the race when Roxon almost passed him? I don't think they ever showed that, Johnny B. Maybe we'll have some footage. Maybe Racer X grab some footage. That would be cool. Dozer said ET was sending through the whoops early. Def preferred line. Where the F did he pick that up? It's a good question. I love that there's some kind of mental thing of knowing you've got that line but not showing anybody until the main, because it feels like Eli has had that all night and just wasn't using it and waited. You know what I mean? And when he unleashed it, man, it was wild. Speaking of, bummer that lapper, was it Veriz? I believe it was Veriz. Bummer that the Veriz was in the way, and he did. I'm never one to really blame lappers like that, but I think Veriz definitely contributed to McAdoo losing that second, because it just was unfortunate. It was that part of the track that they caught Veriz. But I will say, man, RJ, that line was absolutely disgusting. It literally was like a video game line. It didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like he should be able to rip that line. It felt like hacks, man. He was hacking. That was some hacker stuff. But props on RJ, clearly making himself known to be the second guy behind Jet. And obviously when Jet moves up next year and then Hunter right behind it, I think RJ has to be in the conversation of favorite if he can keep it on 2 wheels for next year. I would love to see Thrasher, Kitchen, Style step up. Deegan, obviously. Like, I would love to see those guys step up. But I think RJ is definitely going to be the cream of the crop if he stays in the 250 class next year. And I think it's got to be really disappointing for the McAdoo camp and for Pro Circuit that he's just not there. I think everybody was hoping that Chase was going to step up that next level, and it just doesn't seem like it's happening. Same with Mosman, for that matter. Becca said, Feld is that controlling over the media. Oh, no, Becca, absolutely the opposite. That you're getting the complete wrong take from what I just said. They literally just said, hey, maybe don't do an interview in front of a trash can. They were incredible in that media scrum, because there were probably 5 or 6 of us media people doing post-race interviews, and they were constantly feeding us. Like, I would be wrapping up with somebody, and I'd look over to Joe, and he would kind of like mouth to me like Justin Hill, and then he was directing traffic, and it was incredible, and it was so nice because for somebody like me that doesn't have all those perfect like personal contacts, I don't have those numbers in my phone to just be able to call up anybody I want anytime I want. Being able to go into a room and have, 20 writers available to do interviews, and then even having the organizers literally feeding me people to interview was incredible. That was honestly the best thing I've ever done in my life, No Control said, at this rate, saying RJ most wins, HD a real championship contender. Yeah, that's fair. Cacti said RJ is on track to get second to only Jet 2 seasons in a row. It's gotta hurt. It really does. Ronald Meyer said, did anyone else notice that as soon as Sexton got close to Barsha, he immediately went backwards on the scoreboard? Did we miss a Bam Bam payback? I doubt it, Ronald. It's possible, but what was said earlier is that Chase's clutch lever apparently got bent in his crash. So it might have also just been a thing that he wasn't able to ride to the level he wanted to and probably just backed it down a little bit. James said, "Be glad you don't know that many people." Seriously? Okay. Jake Avery said, "Eli is now Dungy. Ignore the hurt neck. And Sexton is the old Eli." Fair, but you know what, Jake? If Sexton is the old Eli, then that means we have a lot of good Sexton left to come, and I'm here for it. I'm stoked on it. Feld told them not to ask about the racing incident 2 weeks ago. No, HRC specifically asked them not to ask about it. Feld did not. The teams did. I just want to make that clear. Like, I'm not trying to be a Feld homer here or anything, but in the 2 weeks that I've gone to the race, Sean and Joe, who are the PR guys at Feld that we like specifically deal with, have been nothing but incredible in everything that I've done. So I'm sure that the radical moto news YouTuber side would hate to hear that and are gonna call me a sellout and a shill and whatever else, and that's fine. But like legit, I have had nothing but encouragement from Feld to get whatever content that I want. So I'm all team Feld right now. James said, "Clutch lever bent. My son has a $130 lever on his bike that will go every direction and not bend to brake. The pros don't have them." Well, I mean, it could have been that, I don't know. James, ask HRC. Maybe they'll have an answer for you. Aaron said, "Do you think AP was on an offsetting in the main because he was great in the heat?" Aaron, I just think it's one of those where it's all about the start, you know? Like, if AP could have started like he did last week, if AP could have got a start and been running second or third, he could make a couple quick moves. But with all due respect to AP, or I'm sorry, with all due respect to AC, AP got a great start last week, and the only person he had to pass was a guy that has been dropping anchor all season in AC. And I love my boy AC. I mean, no disrespect when I say that. But I think the difference is in this round, AP gets a rough start, and I just don't think he's at the level to catch and pass Tomac, Sexton, Anderson, even Roxon. You know, I just don't think he's really there. If he starts ahead of them, I think he can beat them, but I just don't know if racecraft-wise he's really in that position to make those passes. So, and it could have been a bike thing, but I just think that it was just one of those. It was one of those, you know. Ashton said, "I'm really hoping Tomac takes the championship from Webb because, to be honest, I'm not a fan of Webb. He just seems cocky sometimes." Ashton, I agree to an extent. Like, I can see why people don't like, why they don't like Webb, and he's definitely rubbed me as a fan the wrong way in the last couple of years. He's not for me. And I think it's one of those things where it's not I like the guy, I don't like the guy. It's not personal. But when you pick favorite riders, it's like picking favorite wrestlers or favorite sports teams when you're a kid, where you don't always have a reason. You just don't. You're like, I just don't like how that is. I prefer this style. And I kind of try to look at the riders as, I don't know, I don't want to say like as wrestling personalities, but you know what I mean? That kind of way where I like this thing. I like the way this person operates. I like the way that they present themselves. I like the way that they race. I like their personality and their other hobbies that aren't racing. Like, I like those. And Webb just has never been that guy for me. I'm sure he's super solid dude. I've never had a conversation with him, but he's definitely not one that I'm like, he's not very high up on my list of, oh, if you could have dinner with anybody you want, who do you want? He's not very high on that list. Oh. Cacti said, "I hate to say it, but it shows how rare of an opportunity that was for AP in Detroit." Oh, for sure. And I said that on the Aftershow last week. Like, obviously somebody pushed back and said, "Oh, AP is much better than Dean." And like, oh, fair. You know, AP was a multi-time champion. But it felt like when Dean was leading Anaheim, was that 2019, I think? It was like a little bit muddy. And I'm like, that was Dean's only chance to win a race. That was it. He had his chance and it passed. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope that's not the fate for AP. I hope that AP gets another shot, but we all just have to realize that it is incredibly difficult to win at this level. And you look at like Justin Brayton at Daytona a couple years ago. You gotta get it. You've gotta win that race when you get the chance, because you never know when you get another one. And yeah, I'm with you. It would be a real heartbreaker if AP never gets another chance. Um, but who knows? You know what I mean? Great Commission says, does Moran's get whole shot money? That's a great question. I don't know if KTM pays out any kind of anything for it, but I don't feel like he has any kind of deals like that, because normally those are going to be team bonuses, not sponsor bonuses. That's a great question. I'll have to ask. Like Kev, next time I talk to him, like with your great starts, do you by any chance get any kind of bonuses for starts? Do you work that in? You know what I mean? That'd be cool. Who would you have dinner with? Jet, that's a great question. I would love to have dinner with Anderson, because he seems like such a recluse that I would love to have a one-on-one conversation with Anderson where I could just ask him anything. But that's not from a fan perspective. That's just that, like, I feel like he would have so much to say, or he has so much that he doesn't say, and I would love to maybe get him to talk about it. But same with like Ken. I would love to talk to Ken Roxon with no cameras and just have an honest conversation with him. But from like a fan perspective of having dinner, probably Dean, AC, and um I'd say Dean and AC. That's probably it. Mumphy. I'd like to talk to Mumphy. Let me get Mumphy for sure. Um, Moran's title sponsor pays 10K for main event whole shots. No way, Wing. When was that? What vlog was that? Then they used to do 1,500 for the whole shot from the purse. That's a good question, No Control. I don't think that was a purse though. I think that was a sponsorship, kind of like how motorsport.com sponsors the outdoor. So maybe, but I honestly couldn't tell you. That's a good question. Aaron said, I think A-Ray talked about how O'Neal giving him money. Oh, 100%. Yeah. So I don't know. I can't speak on every single rider, but some of the privateers I've talked to, and I won't say anything to protect their anonymity for what they shared with me. But yeah, the privateers have very, very lucrative bonus structures. So, for example, your Starlings, A-Ray this year, Morans, etc., getting like 15th is the bracket that I have heard. That obviously making the main is a big deal. Getting 20th is kind of a big deal, but since that's only being two guys, it's not much. But 15th is like that's what they want to get. So if you ever wonder, a privateer is going to fight way, way, way more to get from 16th to 15th than he is for 19th up. So if you see a privateer in 16th, you better believe they are pushing for that one extra spot, because it's a much bigger paycheck if they can get that. R Dog said, "Who's your favorite rider?" I mean, AC has been one of my favorites for a very long time. I want to root for Chase Sexton. I do. Like I find myself rooting for Chase Sexton. As far as the title favorites go, Chase is way up there. It's really difficult to do so. 250 side, I definitely like Mumford. Hunter Yoder is really creeping up there. But honestly, my favorite riders are my guys that are the privateers, man. I have so much fun rooting for and talking with Cade and Cartwright and Morans and Grant Harlan, especially. Like, those guys are so much fun. Zach asks, why is it when you guys do your interviews, no one is able to talk to Tomac? So, Zach, from what I understand is anybody that is on the press conference is not required to do the media scrum. Now, I will say that Feld told me that they have asked that they are requiring every rider to do the media scrum. However, there is no penalty currently for them not doing it. So if Eli gets fourth, he's supposed to come and do interviews, but if he doesn't do them, nothing happens. They don't like take his best qualifying time the next week, or like reduce his gate pick or cost him any points. So a lot of the guys just won't do it. But with that being said, if they do the press conference, they're not required to come to the scrum. So for a guy like the guys like Webb, Sexton, and Tomac that are on every single podium, we're probably not going to get them at the scrum. Is that what it's called, Chris? That's what they call it, a scrum, and that's even on the sign. So if you go and look at watch Deegan's vlog, and there's a point where you see Deegan, he's like trying on a vest. That's right around where I interviewed Deegan. They cut. You literally see my head, but the guy with the camera moves so quickly, you'll just see my red hat. But if you look in the background, you can see the flag that says like post-race media scrum, like by the doorway. So that's what they call it, is a scrum. Zachary Camp said, "Love your midweek content." I appreciate it. Thank you. This week's gonna be weird. The next 2 weeks of not having a race next weekend. I don't know what we're gonna do. What we're gonna fill it with. Sleep Outside said, which was more of a mistake, Deegan and Smith or McAdoo and Lawrence? A mistake as in an accident? Like McAdoo and Lawrence was clearly an accident. Nobody can say Deegan and Smith was an accident because both of those guys went in with intent to do some battling. So that I would say that's the bigger mistake, because they could have prevented that and they didn't, and they should have. You know what I mean? Safe said, when you first started this channel, did you think the channel and yourself? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I did not think for a minute that I would be doing this at any point. The very first YouTube video I ever made was literally almost like a New Year's resolution. Like I just told, I told my wife and some friends, I'm like, I want to start a YouTube channel. I think that would be a cool thing to do. I'll try that out. And it was like literally the 4th day of the year that I was trying to teach a friend how to play fantasy, and he was like, is there a YouTube video? And I was like, yeah, probably. And then I went and looked, and there wasn't a YouTube video for how to play Pulp Fantasy. So I was like, I'll make the video. And that was it. I never even expected anybody to really watch it. I just was like, well, that way, if anybody ever searches how to play PulpMX Fantasy, there's a video. Okay, like, good, there you go. That's my community service to the Moto fam. Oh, so absolutely not. I never expected any of this to do anything. So I'm very, very privileged to be here. Great Commission said, I have a question I haven't gotten an answer to. In the 80s, HRC bikes were called RC 125, 250, and 500, not CR. That's a great question, and I have no idea. What the RC probably stood for race something. I'm sure somebody has an answer, but I have no idea. I don't know if this is just marketing, but I always was, as a kid, I had a manual for, like, I don't remember, early 90s CR 125 and 250, and the cover said CR with us. And if you guys remember, Honda's slogan used to be "Come Ride with Us," and I was always like, oh, CR stands for Come Ride, but probably not. That video changed my life. Matt, good. I'm glad. Hey, by the way, Chris Politsky, thank you so much for the $6.99 Canadian. I appreciate you. Don't thank me. I thank you. I thank you guys all for allowing me to do this at all. Like, literally letting me do this at all. Showing up and listening to me is ridiculous. James said, RC has been Honda's work motorcycle designation since before I was born, and I'm 55. Got it. CR is close ratio. Got it. Thank you, James. I appreciate it. Velocity Raptor said, how long do you think till Craig gets on the 450 podium? Years? I don't think he does, and not because he can't. I just don't see a scenario where Craig straight up beats, for 20 minutes plus one, Tomac, Sexton, Webb, Barsha, Anderson, Roxon. Like, he's got to beat 4 of those on any given night, and I just don't know if I don't see him doing that. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, not without a lot of help. You know. Modified Life said, do you think KTM is regretting signing Sexton now? I don't think KTM is regretting having Sexton, because I think that a bike change could do him some good. I don't think there's anything wrong with a Honda, but, you know, we saw what happened with Tomac and Anderson last year. Him switching to a different platform could help him. But with that being said, I do think they might regret it a little bit, because as Steve talked about on the Pulp Show, they've told Chase, you're going to be our guy. You're going to be our number one guy. So now I think I don't think they can re-sign Webb. They're just in a really tough spot right now where Webb wants to be the number one and Sexton wants to be the number one. And I don't think they can coexist on the team. The budget might not really be there either to sign both of them. So with that being said, I think that they might have regretted signing him so early because that really locked them out of any other options moving forward. But we will see. We will see. It's going to be a very exciting, silly season, I think. Um, Jamie Johnson asked, "What's your favorite bike?" Like, just I've always been I haven't been a Honda guy in that I've owned a bunch, but I think Hondas look the best. I think last generation's Honda was the best looking bike of all time as far as motocross bikes go. I don't know, just the proportions and that shroud. It's a beautiful design and I love it. And if I'm being honest, I kind of hate the new one just because it can't live up to the last one. As far as bikes I've owned, honestly, my RMZ 250 was great, but it was that just because it's the only four-stroke motocross bike I've ever had, but I like that one. Becca asked, "Are you going to Glendale?" I haven't decided yet, Becca. I do want to go to Glendale, but because the season's winding down, I'm definitely doing Nashville, and I wanted to do Denver, but I don't know if I can do two races on back-to-back weekends. So I'm thinking about doing Glendale so that I can do something more now and then have time until Nashville. So the jury is out right now, but I do want to do it. I know, Jess. I wanted to come to Seattle so bad, but with me doing Detroit and Indy, I just was like, it would be a bad idea, like from a responsibility standpoint, for me to travel 3 weekends in a row. It just really sucked how the scheduling lined up this year, unfortunately. Aaron Mikado said, Craig has to make up years of 450 experience of guys who are comfortable in the program. Agreed, for sure. Woodman, good point. Woodman49 said, KTM tried that with Roxon and Dungey and it didn't work. I mean, and look at F1. There's a reason you can kind of clearly have a guy, and he can be talented. Like, I think having Roxon and Sexton worked out because Sexton was gonna be the number one, but not yet. You know what I mean? But obviously, I don't think Roxon wanted to be in Honda this year, knowing that Sexton was gonna be the guy. Zachary Camp said, RC did not answer a question about Christian Craig's bike has good enough bike to win. I think it's a good enough bike to win. I think every bike I mean, let's be honest, Zachary, and I mean no disrespect to the RM Army because I am a proud member, but if Roxon can win on the Suzuki, there's no reason that Craig can't win on the Rockstar Husky because AP can win on the KTM and so can Webb. So, and that's essentially the same platform. So I think it's fine. It might not mesh with him well enough to win, but I think the bike itself is fine. Jesse said, do you expect Barcia to continue next year? If not, thoughts on who takes the 450 gas spot? That's a great question, Jesse. I want to do a roundtable with Weege and Kellen maybe this in the next 2 weeks since we have like that off week to kind of make some content of just trying to line up some silly season and just have a conversation of where I think everybody goes. I think it would be weird, but I mean, if Webb can't go to KTM because Sexton's there, I think Webb on gas would be a really sick move. I would love to see that. If not, I would love to see like RJ move up and take that gas spot. I think Barcia races if he gets a factory ride, but I don't think Barcia continues to race if he has anything less than a factory level ride. Does that make sense? Sleep Outside said if Morans can hold shot his bike, any bike can win the race. That's valid. That's valid. Aaron Mikado said, anyone know any riders who use Olin suspension? I remember being around the Traders team and seeing them, but since then, nowhere. I don't know if any teams currently know. AGP used Olin's a few years ago, but I don't think they are currently, no. RJ said he's going 250s next year. Okay. So then he's probably re-signing with Rockstar then. I doubt he's going to go anywhere else and say 250. You know what I mean? Tell It As I See It said, in the history of the sport, has there ever been another rider that has crashed while leading more than Sexton? Probably not. Stu, maybe. Stu had a lot more years than Sexton's had, but the only person I think that could even be close to that would be Stu. Our dog asked thoughts on Cole Seeley tonight. My thoughts are I didn't realize he was already 33 when they busted that stat out on the screen that said he was 33. I was like, really? Because then I was definitely because I was thinking about picking him in fantasy and I didn't, but once I found out he was 33, I was really glad I didn't. Not that like being in your mid 30s is a death wish, I should know. It's just yeah, I just didn't realize he was that old, you know? Um Max Lawrence said RJ is not racing 450. Go watch his interview from this weekend. Well, a lot of things can change. Unless he signed a contract, a lot of things can change. Well, L Racer asked, does KTM resign AP after his Detroit ride? I don't. That's a good question. I don't think that's enough to get him re-signed, but I think AP would be a great compliment to Sexton. You know, if we're gonna go that route of having a rider and a B rider, I don't think there's a better B rider for KTM to go out and grab. At least AP obviously is comfortable on the bike. He's versatile. He's good indoor and outdoor. He might even be great outdoor this year. So I think that he could get the ride back because I just don't know who better would be a better fit for the second KTM seat. You know what I mean? Do you know any Spanish? I know the words from movies. That's about it. Dozer said I'd ride any day with. Oh, for sure, dude. I would. Cole seems like a super cool dude, and I'm really into import cars too. So like I could totally get down and have some conversations with Cole. Safe said I think AP goes to Honda with Jet while Hunter does another 250 season. It would be interesting to see AP on Honda. That would I would be interested to see that. Our dog said if you could pick any 15 people to compete in all their primes, oh, that's way too big of a list. Just pick the 15 most winningest riders of all time, and that's probably about it for me. Tell it said, where will AP go if KTM doesn't resign him? You know what? I think he would be real. I think he'd be a great personality to be over at the Gas by himself. I think they could kind of build a team around him the same way that they build around Barsha. I think Mosman definitely is out over at Gas. So, and I don't know about Pierce Brown, but I wouldn't be surprised if they want to move on from him too. So, I would love to see them build a fun fan favorite team over at Gas, similar to what HEP did with like Chiz and and A Ray and Seven Deuce Deuce a few years ago, but like a higher tier of those guys, but I don't know. Like this video. Yeah, what Matt said. Like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to check that notification bell so you know whatever, blah blah blah. PB is signed already for next year. Okay. Woodman said Barsha is riding the edge due to contract coming up. I just I just don't know who's going to be the first to retire. Actually, better question for chat. Who's going to be the first 450 guy? Like obviously Eli is out. We don't know for sure, but we can all assume that Eli's out after this year. Who's next? Like Webb, Anderson, Barsha, Roxon, like they're all getting to that point where Webb's the youngest of all of them, but they're all nearing or over 30. I could see Roxon doing just World Supercross. Um, I feel like Kenny's the guy kind of guy. I don't really see any of them, but definitely Kenny. They don't want to get ninth. You know, they're not gonna be satisfied being ninth every week. But I don't really see Anderson being like that either. You know, like with all due respect, like you look at Chiz, you look at Brayton, you know, those kind of guys that raced I want to say way past their prime, but Wyndham, Chad Reed, they raced way past their prime and they were fine being a mid-pack guy. I just don't see anybody else. I don't see anybody that's racing currently at the top of the in the top 10 ever becoming that guy. You know what I mean? Kenny then Barsha. I could see Barsha being next. I wouldn't be surprised if Barsha is next, but I don't think he is, but I wouldn't be surprised. Kenny World Supercross only. Anderson is he's a champ already. Fair. AC after another surgery. Don't you put that on us. Don't you put that on us right now. Jess said we were betting who falls down first, Sexton or Adam. Did you win? Did you win? That's the important question. Dozer said, I was a little put off when they showed black and white images and claim SWX lineage. It's always been a two-part specialized sport to me since the late 70s. That's fair. Yep. Retire to arena cross, make bank. I actually talked to Starling, related, unrelated, this last weekend when I was in Detroit, and he was like, he raced that Tampa Pro Am or whatever around Daytona, and he went 1-1-1 with a bad knee and made $4,000, and he was like, that was honestly, that really opened my eyes to some things. Uh Spasm said Anderson says he wants to keep going like every week. Well, I think they all want to keep going every week until they don't, because it goes back to that thing of, and no shame on this if any of these guys feel this way. Nobody wants to. It's hard, and I would love to talk to Dean about this, or Savachi to a lesser degree. When you've ridden as part of a factory level program for pretty much your entire life, it's a lot to go to all of a sudden not having that lifestyle anymore, of having to have a much lesser degree, you have lesser facility, of lesser all of that. And I could just see, all of these guys want to race, but do they want to race so bad to go to like that next tier of team, that Moto Concepts level of just not really having the support, and those teams are quickly evaporating, you know what I mean? Like once you lose that factory level, and I'm going to throw HEP into that factory level, once you lose that, right now you kind of have this fall down to like the Mad Parts Kawasaki. A lot of those mid-tier teams, your Rocky Mountain KTM, your Moto Concepts, they're no longer doing full-time 450 rides. So I mean, once that push comes to shove, and you aren't factory level anymore, you can't go the Canard, Millsaps, Brayton route of that Moto Concepts Rocky Mountain. It just doesn't exist anymore, and I don't think those guys want to go all the way down to a more privateer satellite team. Cacti said the world will be perfect when AC, AP, and Malcolm. Oh, I just wish Malcolm was racing this year, man. I mean, he started to, but like it's a real bummer that he's not with us. R Dog, love your content, man. Hey, I appreciate you. Also, Jess, Ochoa, is it Ochoa? Cleveland baseball. We used to have a pitcher with that last name, and I got it wrong all the time, so I feel like I'm gonna get it wrong now. But I'm gonna wrap up. It's 2 a.m. because I'm an East Coast dork. I appreciate you guys so much for coming here and doing this with me, as always, every week. No race next weekend, so there will be no live show, obviously. Glendale, it's a 30 to 40% chance that I go to Glendale right now. It's definitely on the table, but I'm not going to commit to it. So I might be back here in this chair at Glendale, but there is at least a little bit of a chance that I'll be at the race. And we'll do those post-race interview live show again, as long as the Wi-Fi is good enough to sustain that kind of signal. But thank you guys so much, as always, for hanging out with me. This is honestly, this means the world to me. You guys mean the world to me. I appreciate it so much. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and most importantly, be good people. Later, guys.